Okay, great. And I believe it was about 7.5 years ago that you moderated the very first presentation webinar that I gave on Urban Tree Canopy, so we've got some history going. Well, it's a great privilege to be here today, and I think Jarlath's presentation was a terrific segue in a way that I can reiterate some of these, maybe reinforce a lot of these comments. So let's see here. Let me advance the slides. There we go. What I want to talk about and share with you today are ways of designing an effective urban tree canopy study, and I will do that with a case study from Columbus, Ohio, and some online interactive tools we've built, and wrap up with some impacts and outcomes from across the country, and show some resources as well. And this really will illustrate different scales, products, partners. As Jarlath mentioned, we've really been focusing on the accessibility of the information that comes from these studies and different ways that they can be used interactively. And just to reinforce, I guess, the concept that the process as a whole really does create a lot of buy-in and collaboration. I think most of you know that. Well, to dive right into things for Columbus, Ohio, a little over a year ago this project started. They have a lot of different motives for why they wanted to conduct the urban tree canopy study, ranging from climate protection and sustainability to invasive species. I won't read everything. We've been working with the Green Space Working Group that was developed in 2012, and they were a great stakeholder group to have as part of this really comprehensive assessment and online tools. They really needed to create an outreach campaign and also to have an accurate baseline for developing and maybe enhancing their ideas on an urban tree canopy goal. So this is a quick list here, or a look at the different tasks of the project. And with limited time, I'm going to just briefly talk about number 2, 4, and 5 here. And then I'll show a few illustrations of the online canopy and community tools that we developed to really bring everything together. Jarlath already introduced these different geographic scales that we can be assessed as part of UTC assessments. And I just want to, again, reiterate that the different audiences that these can target. So this is an example of the different scales that were chosen for the Columbus study, and they reach different audiences, from street and parks staff to planners to more regulatory and policy initiatives, as well as green infrastructure and stormwater projects. So this is what we chose for the Columbus project. One of the tasks of the study was to look at the relationships between tree canopy and socio-demographics. The American Community Survey was useful for this, and one of the outcomes we found is that as urban tree canopy in Columbus increases, so do these indicators that are listed here. And we can spatially show ways that this works out across the landscape by the intersection of where we have below average tree cover and below average median household income. Those are those orangish areas that you see in the map there. Moving along into the online tools and out of sort of the assessment phase, those data layers are then used as inputs into an online tool that is really a very comprehensive application focused on getting any user to interact with the urban tree canopy data. So I want to show you ways that we've developed this so that users can view, plan, and grow the urban tree canopy at maybe a citywide or a county or even a regional scale, and then move into more of an intermediate scale where we can get into implementation, tracking, and outreach by actually plotting our implementation activities and then keeping track of the progress we're making at more of the neighborhood scale and block level. So I'll jump right into this. This is an online tool. Anybody can access this. There's no software to install. Let's see. So first thing is you might want to, let's say when you get the urban tree canopy data and you don't have GIS skills or software, which a lot of users don't, this tool allows them to interact with the information very easily and quickly. So maybe you're applying for a grant and you want to show areas that have the greatest need for tree planting. So this is a way, if you look at the red slider bars on the left there, let me see if this works. You see the little arrows. all we've done is move the slider bar, and now what we're showing are just the areas at the block level, and you can change the geographic scale to those different polygon boundaries. So at the block level, we're showing areas with lower than the average citywide tree cover and higher than the average amount of planting space. So this is just one example of how quickly and easily you can interact with the data. You can hover over it and get some of these statistics as well about the land cover. Working with the Green Space Working Group, another process was basically focused on prioritization. So what are the priorities in terms of where we want to maximize trees as part of our overall urban tree canopy goal setting? So they came up with these 6 themes that you see on the left, and they're essentially represented as slider bars that represent the weight that you want to give to a particular criteria. So you can slide these bars. In the example that I've shown here on screen, we've focused on economic vitality. So this is where do we have opportunity for tree planting, where there's also areas of below average income, education, owner occupancy, and age. And so this is information for the census block layers, but it's very quick and easy to see when you slide these bars where these different priorities in the landscape exist and how they play out in terms of tree canopy goals. So moving from the landscape scale, let's say citywide or countywide scale, down into actual implementation, the users in Columbus can register to add tree planting events to the site. They can do that simply by dropping a point into the map and entering some information about their organization, the number of volunteers that are involved, the funding source, things of that nature. They can do this, of course, to engage citizens, to track what they're doing, and even get volunteers to sign up specifically for tree planting events. Finally, at the individual tree level, we can choose species, add those to the form, and these get essentially added to each event. So I should mention, I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the outreach program that they've developed and where this tool is linked through that program. Finally, there's a quick reporting tool that just summarizes and tracks where they are in the process of their goals towards tree planting. And I'll talk about that here in just in just a minute. So with that quick introduction to different visualization techniques and ways to design an effective urban tree canopy study, I want to shift focus to what's asked of us a lot, which is what are the outcomes, what are the impacts from these canopy studies? And this is hard to quantify. I actually reached out to several clients to get input from them specifically on, now that it's been a few months or even in some cases a year or two, can you tell us what would have been different with or without the assessment? So to maybe wrap things up, I guess, with the case study on Columbus, I will start with that example, and then I have a few others around the country. So the single biggest impact from the UTC study in Columbus is the development of this branch out campaign. And again, this really piggybacks on Jarlath's comments earlier about private property and where the opportunity is. The assessment really helped to show that there's a need and a role for citizens on private property, and that their 300,000 tree planting goal was not going to happen without partnerships. The data also provided clarity on a previous target that the community had set for canopy, realizing it was probably not realistic to go from 22% to 27% in just 5 years. The city has also said that they're really doing a lot more proactive management and less reactive now that the study's been completed, and it emphasized the need for more well-defined standards for urban forestry management and protection, and they've developed a committee, hopefully with the hope of codifying. The last point is really getting back to that watershed scale for assessment and planning. We're doing a follow-on assessment with a local community, Upper Arlington, and what this is going to help do is there's a group called FLOW, the Friends of the Lower Olentangy River, and the data is now going to be wall-to-wall or more comprehensive at a watershed scale. Well, I wish I had a full hour to talk about everything they're doing in Grand Rapids, because there's a lot going on. I'm going to share a few highlights We worked with the City of Grand Rapids earlier this year, and they had already had in process an update to their zoning ordinance with specific emphasis on tree and landscaping. So a few really amazing things have happened in Grand Rapids recently. One is they've established urban tree canopy goals for their land use types. They've also been using the data at the parcel level to review site plans and work with developers who in the past have attempted to learn information about the property, know how many trees are there, and remove those trees prior to actually getting a permit. And so what they've said to me is having this baseline now at the parcel level is really sort of an experimental thing, but that they want to move forward on being able to come back and say, we had this data, we know what was there. This relates to a downtown canopy plan and I guess more overarching plan called Grand Rapids Forward. They're using the canopy data to establish a goal. It's been several years now, maybe 4 or 5, since they've established a 40% canopy target. They're currently at 34%. And downtown is at just 4%. And it's starting to have it's getting a conversation started, and it hasn't stopped. So they're developing this plan, and what they learned from this study is that with 10 acres downtown of planting space that's vegetation versus 70 acres that was plantable impervious area, largely parking lots, that what they need to focus on is tree health in parking lots. And so they've actually already approved a volume-based soil requirement for trees in medians and parking lots instead of a two-dimensional requirement. So that's a really big step up to try to get more canopy downtown and in that 70 acres out of 80 for total plantable area. One of the other things they're doing is a neighborhood level plan in the East Hills neighborhood. So again, this is going to reiterate some of the points that Jarlath brought up about private property, and maybe Earl will talk about as well. They had less than 200 vacant street tree locations based on a current updated inventory, yet they have 34 acres in this East Hill neighborhood of planting space in open space and grass areas. So again, the canopy assessment has helped to inform that plan. In addition, we're wrapping up an iTree hydro study using the canopy information as well, and it's funded through an EPA resiliency grant and charrette that they held a couple weeks ago. So again, that's just a small portion of all the great things they're doing in Grand Rapids. Moving on to a couple other examples, I have 3 left. The University of the University of Memphis in Memphis and Shelby County, Tennessee, had conducted the geospatial analysis for land cover and urban tree canopy across the entire county. We were brought in by the Wolf River Conservancy later in the game to take the data and help to apply that in more of a planning approach. So we were really brought in for the public outreach component. About a year ago, we held a stakeholder workshop and conducted a SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We presented the information that came out of the study, the canopy study, and also provided surveys to the 10 different communities specifically within the county. So I have a link at the end. You can take a look at the Canopy Action Plan and ways in which the canopy data was used to inform that plan. And again, we have online, there's 10 individual community fact sheets about the results. 2 last examples, and then I'll just give my recap. We worked with the Savannah Tree Foundation last year and earlier this year. One of the, I guess, startling findings is that over a 15-year period, the county of Chatham County has lost over 21,000 acres of forest cover, and I was thinking about how to present that when I went down there to visit, and what we came up with was that this is equal to about 2.5 football fields of tree canopy every day for a 15-year period. One of the other findings from this study was seeing that there's over 5,000 acres of parking lot within the county. And what this has helped them to do is to secure funding from a federal NOAA grant through the Georgia Department of Natural Resources to look at parking lot design and ways we can make parking lots more tree friendly. So they have a team of landscape architects and engineers locally. These studies, as they've said to me, it was not new science necessarily, but it needed to be done locally. And the hope is that this can impact municipal ordinances along the southern coast of the United States in terms of tree canopy and all the benefits that come along with trees in parking lots. So those are just a few of the highlights from that study. In Aspen, Colorado, we conducted what they wanted to refer to as a community forestry analysis, and they're working to develop stormwater credits for property owners right now in terms of managing runoff and planting new trees as well as preserving trees during development. Similar to Grand Rapids, I don't know if I mentioned this, they're using the data, I think I did, they're using the data specifically at the parcel level to look at the site plan review process and to maintain as much of that canopy as they can. So I have on my next slide here a recap of some of these resources, and I think really that's what I wanted to share with you today. So this is a link to some of the reports and plans and fact sheets we've done, a few other related software applications that you might want to explore, and then I will just quickly go to the second one. This is some links to the Columbus Branch Out campaign and the online application, and then the Canopy Action Plan, and then the Urban Runoff Management Plan for Aspen, Colorado. So I will hand it back to Jill and to Earl.